I'm Angela Petruncio, and I am the chair of the Eye of the Beholder Art of the Found Object exhibition that is in the Circle Gallery at MFA right now. And today we are just doing the award ceremony online. And I am really looking forward to sharing all of this with you all. And I'm happy to see that at least Jason is here, and I'm not sure how many of our other people who are getting awards are here, but because I can't see everybody. Anyway, I have chaired this exhibition since its inception back in 2010, believe it or not. Yes, I'm old. And it has been a wonderful experience to chair this show and to see how the art of working with found objects has evolved over time, and we've really come to an amazing place now. It's like the quality of work is astonishing, and it's just wonderful. It's so exciting to see that happen. So what I'm going to do now is just do a few thank yous to people who have supported this show. Julie Oakes right now is manning all the technology back there, and she's going to be doing the slide flipping. Laura Carty, I would like very much to thank. She's our exhibitions manager, and she's always on the ball. To those who unpacked the work so very carefully, those of you who do this kind of thing are always nervous about mailing your things in, because we know how it can be really rough out there on work such as ours, found object work, because it's mostly glued together and so forth. It's not something that's in a frame and protected necessarily. So I really want to thank those people who so carefully unpacked the work this year. To the team of installers who brought the show to life, thank you so much. And last but not least, my deepest appreciation to Toni-Lee Sangastiano, who is our juror for this show. She worked so hard to choose the most outstanding artwork that was submitted to make this show really excellent in every way. And then to go on to choose the award winners. And just to give you a little perspective of what her job was like, there were 161 pieces by 66 artists that were submitted for consideration for inclusion. Of those, 54 pieces by 37 artists were actually selected to be in the exhibition. And out of those, 7 works have been chosen for awards. So I really feel that her knowledge and expertise shows up in the quality and the cohesiveness of this exhibition. So I'll tell you a little bit about our juror now. Toni-Lee Sangastiano is an accomplished multidisciplinary artist. She's trained in visual arts, art theory, and aesthetics. Her work engages the analysis of power structures and language. She is a scholar of the carnivalesque. She is associate professor of the practice in the art and art history department and member of the medical humanities faculty at Georgetown University. You can visit her website, sangastiano.com, to learn more about her and her history and her work. Now, this is the bad news. I'm sorry to say that Toni-Lee could not join us today. So you're going to have to listen to my voice the whole time. I'm really sorry about that. But she has provided wonderful commentary on each of the award-winning pieces, as well as a juror's statement, which reads, and you can read along with me or not. This is what she has to say about the experience and the work that she saw. The artwork selected for Eye of the Beholder reimagines the discarded and lost detritus of human existence into hybridized forms of delight, darkness, and surprise. The mechanical and man-made are commanded into seemingly impossible natural landscapes, ritualistic objects, poignant tableaus, mythical beings, and living creatures whose motion and presence often defy the boundaries of their forms. As constructed forms, the visceral labor of their varied processes is not only apparent, but also presents the myriad of ways artists mold, shape, weld, paint, sew, and assemble. From neon to concrete, steel to fabric, architectural salvage to bones, shells, and more, each artwork has multiple rescued treasures, clearly saved for their rebirth. The inventiveness of these artists openly express themes of playfulness, honor, loss, whimsy, nostalgia, and the metaphysical. The artworks in this exhibition dare us to reimagine and repurpose with boldness and endless possibilities in a media-dominated world. So let's go to our first honorable mention. This is called Beds Are Burning, and this is what Toni-Lee had to say about this work. Beds Are Burning creates an asymmetrically balanced relief of nautical and architectural objects. The relief relies on color balance, textural contrasts, and unexpected rotational placement to create a surprisingly new integrative form with seemingly disparate objects. And it is, in my estimation, so pure. These are purely found objects arranged for us to see. All right, let's do the next one. This one is Cognition by Christine Helms. Cognition seems to connect to steampunk visual language through the use of gears and instruments, as if a conceptual process was rendered visual and physical upon an Escher-like 360-degree optical illusion of overlapped faces with shared features. The cool facial expressions and material allow one to question whether it is human, robot, a hybrid, or purely symbolic of its processes. The contrast of the blue creates a separation of mind and body beyond its formal balance contribution to the form. So, can you say a little bit about this piece for us, Chris?
Sure. The different elements that I have in here, the top part of it, all of the metals were taken from my father-in-law's workshop after he passed away. He was an engineer. He built furniture. He worked on cars and plumbing, and he did everything under the sun that you could think of. And he had all of these pieces and parts strewn about the basement with all of his tools and everything. And as we were cleaning that all out, I was collecting pieces that caught my eye and were of interest to me that I knew I would use some way, somehow, in some piece of art. And during COVID is when I created this piece and pulled all of the various parts together. The bottom part of it was a vase that I had, and I just had a bunch of paintbrushes because I also do oil painting in there. And the blue round metal piece I had picked up somewhere, sometime, a long, long time ago as part of one of the pieces that I knew that one day I would use some way. And after I built the metal part of it, I was thinking, you know, a lot of it's like cogs and, you know, nuts and bolts and things of that nature. And when I was looking at the vase, I thought, oh, well, let me just put this all together into a piece, you know, about cognition. And, you know, my motto is mind over matter. So like the little blue layer was sort of the separation of the mind and thought versus physical matter. And that's basically how I came up with creating the piece.
Yeah, I like the play on words of cogs and cognition too. That's kind of cool. But that vase is really something. I never would have dreamed that that had been what it used to be.
You know, I did not make that vase myself, so
Yeah.
that piece was purchased and bought. And interestingly enough, I saw it on television on some show where they I don't know, these shows nowadays do these things with trying to sell you stuff in them at the same time. And the guy that was doing that would have one of these vases up on the top of his shelf in the background, which I thought was funny.
So funny. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, Chris, so much. And congratulations to you.
Thank you.
It's wonderful to get an award, especially when it's such a competitive show. Amazing. All right, let's go to the next one. This is by Lisa Marie Greist. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. All right, I'm going to read what the juror said about your work, and then we'll let you talk about it, okay?
Sure.
This is called Pan, as you can see on the slide. And she's used paper clay, wood, encaustic, cloth, and found objects. According to Toni-Lee, this is what she says: Pan has such a commanding presence that alludes to the darker side of myths and fairy tales. The texture, decay, adornment, cloven feet, and sunken facial features are integrated into this powerful figure, and you will be drawn to its presence when you see Pan in the gallery. This character has a life of its own. All right, let's go.
Thank you so much just for giving us this opportunity to exhibit. And I love Toni-Lee's words. So a lot of my work, basically, I don't know what I'm going to make, like many of us, until my hands start to teach me what's going to emerge. But I have been working on this series for a long time. It's actually a group of series, but where I start with a piece of wood that I find on one of my walks in the forest where I live. And a lot of this wood came out of a pile of wood chips when we had to cut down a tree at one of our houses, which made me very sad. And so I found this piece, and sometimes I also find driftwood in stores. So I don't live near the ocean anymore, but I really like this idea of abandonment, abandoned objects being given a new life through the artist's heart and hands. And sometimes that life goes back to, ancient times. So like Greek gods or fairy tales. And so that piece just came about because I saw that, as a horn, even though Pan would have two horns, but, and this character came out of that, that more and more began to resemble, in my mind, Pan. And that's how my work starts. I don't start out with an idea. The idea comes as I'm creating. So I use paper clay, as you said. I use encaustic because I just like the depth of the wax, the layers of wax. And I just find that
Encaustic as a coating.
Yes, I paint with encaustic.
Okay. Yes,
with multiple layers of encaustic. Well, I liked what Toni-Lee said because I think she got the piece, and it just really speaks to regeneration of things that we discard or it's objects that we abandon.
The face on this guy is, it just says a lot. Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thanks very much.
All right, moving on to the next one. This one is called Grand Jeté by Marcella Morghese. This is what Toni-Lee had to say about this. This is welded steel, wire fencing, steel strapping, and found steel. A lot of steel going on there. Grand Jeté has beautiful use of positive and negative space, texture, volume, and cast shadows. The use of color and flow of the curves from these man-made forms connect to natural waves of water and air. The command over the integrated materials and curves is powerful, especially in their reference to nature. And it is. That middle part looks like a mosaic to me. All right, and now we will move on to the third place winner. Is Daniel Venn here?
Yeah, yes, I'm here.
Oh, hi. Okay, Daniel, I'm going to go ahead and read what Toni-Lee said about your piece, and then you can talk freely about it, okay?
Okay.
So here we go. Daniel Steven Venn's Horizon. 384 house paint sample jars on a wood panel. She says, Horizon abstractly connects to color fields and the history of landscape painting with an unusual use of materials. From afar, there is an observed gradient of color. Each demarcates a specific part of the landscape. However, upon closer inspection, each paint sample jar top contains its own world. There are marbleized colors that also hint to the history of its craft and oozing impastos that refreshingly defy gravity. The cast shadows allude to time, and the sheer number allows us to see this messy detritus in a new way. The floor is yours, Daniel.
Okay. Well, so I just periodically just go to paint stores to see if they've got any mistint paints that they want or just trying to get rid of, because I teach and using house paint with my students is helpful. But these were just like very small. They're almost like little makeup jars or something like that. And I just thought they're too small to really use for anything, but I didn't want to just throw them away. So there's a part of me that I think that probably everybody that works with found objects probably goes through, where you're thinking that you don't want to control what you're doing too much, but you have to control it enough to make it into something. So for me, I was just arranging them based on the little color swatch that was on the top of the jars. And then afterwards, I thought, okay, I want to get the paint out of this because it was way too heavy. So what am I going to do? So what I did was, with the lower part of the Horizon, I just unscrewed the lids and just let it pour down. And then to get the upper section, I just, once that paint was dry, I turned it upside down, unscrewed the jar so that the paint would flow the other direction, because I wanted to at least try to have like a clean line there in the middle. And so I was really pleased with it. I'm a big fan of Monet, and I sort of feel like this is my sort of impressionist sort of thing using detritus.
That is just amazing. Wow. Wow. Well, we loved it so much. We turned it into our publicity photo for the show. So
I will tell you that because I'm always trying to make use of every possible thing, I held on to there was a tub that all the paint dripped into, and that gradually over time I would just reach in and pull up, like the upper layer would, because it was latex, would turn into rubber. So I have these big sheets of colorized rubber, if you will, and I'm trying to now figure out what to do with that.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah, that is great. Oh,
Thank
you, Daniel. Thank you for sharing your work with us, and congratulations.
Thank you so
That's
much.
wonderful. All right, now we're going to move on to The Perilous Journey by Nadia Linda Goldstein. And I think she's here.
I'm here.
All right, great. All right, I will read what Toni-Lee had to say about your piece. And the media is acrylic mixed media with found objects. So here we go. The Perilous Journey intensely seems to capture a parade route, ticker tape parade, flags, and a celebratory moment within hundreds of objects and painted shapes. Upon closer inspection, there's a darker contrast of danger and anxiety through hidden descriptive words and staring eyes through the overwhelmingly large crowd. Multiple layers and meanings, this contrast of sentiments, along with the scale and intense reflectiveness of the surface, warrants attention and further contemplation.
That's very interesting. And can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I think she picked up on the fact that I started backwards here. I started with my mind full of concepts before I attacked the art. So my mind was overwhelmed with freedom, barriers, intrusion of privacy, femininity, fear, bravery, democratic divide, and perilous journey. And Then I landed in my studio and the objects started flying at the at the canvas. And in what seemed to be a degree of insanity. But but I needed to contend with so many somewhat terrifying thoughts, but I didn't want to yield to simply dark thoughts. I wanted to remember we're all Americans, we're dealing with a complex series of issues. Now, the good news is when my 6-year-old grandson showed up, he said, this is great. He said, this is kids at a 4th of July party in the street. And that's what I want. Everyone has his own reaction here. Others have figured out what was going on in their own ways. And that's really all I can offer. But I put in more objects than I intended to, but each object just connected with one of the concepts in some manner.
Ah, well, congratulations, Linda. This is really a tour de force, I would say, as far as putting so many objects in a single work. It's amazing, and that you didn't give in to the dark side completely. So that's lovely.
Not completely. No, yeah. Somebody had to, I didn't want it in the closet forever.
No, right. Well, congratulations again.
Well, thank you
wonderful.
So much for everything you all do in putting on this show. This is such an incredible show. I can't wait the 2 years for the show.
Thank you for all of your support. I know you've been in our shows before, and it's good to see you again.
Lovely show. Thank you.
All right. And certainly last but not least, we have our first prize winner. This is Jason Lyons Coleman. And I know you're here, Jason, so I won't even ask. And he just calls it, he doesn't let on too much about what all he's putting in there. He just calls it found objects. So that's a little disappointing. But anyway, I digress. Okay, here we go. This is what Toni-Lee said about your work, Jason. Coleman has an exquisite integration of multiple objects which defy their original purpose. And some of those objects are in direct connection to the form. Others are ingeniously reinvented as parts of the sockeye. There are so many forms and textures to explore within this piece. Additionally, the arc of motion, facial expression, and objects used to capture the facial structure are parallel with nature in this surprising form.
In talking about my piece, and a lot of my pieces, and this one actually had been around for honestly a couple of years. Every time I start a piece, I basically just start gathering parts. And this one had actually started with the tail fins, and I guess would be the dorsal fin, and of which are old ladder, extension ladder brackets. And so it's like, oh, you know what? That's just a cool look. And then I'm kind of playing off of almost like the old Alaskan, like totem symbols of like salmon and things like that, how you would see those. So I was thinking, okay, let's go this direction. But then I will just start gathering parts and pieces over time. And then all of a sudden I'll run across something that will just launch it and go, okay, this is it. This is the look. This is the direction I want to go in. I know obviously, and with this particular piece also is I rebuilt the head on it several times because I just could not get it to work. And it just wouldn't give you that jaw line, that expression, as was noted, I just couldn't. And then one day, using the brake calipers and all that, it just clicked, and it's like, okay, here we go. And so that's how all my pieces are basically born, as I call them, and they just grow from there. And honestly, it's funny because I kind of half joke that I do the head first and the tail and then just work together in the middle for the rest of it. And at that point, I have my style, I have the direction I want to go in, I have the look, and then it's just piecing it all together. And every little thing is pieced together. Everything is filled out. Everything is just reworked, I guess, to that degree, and carving out the saw handles and things like that to get the forms and the shapes throughout it. And so, yeah.
And it's
So-
just amazing, Jason, the way you can see, this looks like the part that needs to be there. Does the title Coleman refer to a fishing term or?
Actually, no. It is off of I have an old piece of badging off of an old Coleman cooler that I was going to use in this piece. And it has been in this box with all the parts and pieces forever. And I tried to figure out a way to make it work into the piece, and I never could. And it's like, you know what? It doesn't need to be there. It's not right. It doesn't work, but you know what? I'll name it Coleman. So that's how I can incorporate it. So that was in all seriousness, it's like, all right, that'll work. So, and I still have the little badging piece, so.
I believe, Jason, that you will use those Coleman parts. I believe you will, and we'll come up with Coleman 2, right?
Exactly. There you go.
Well, Jason, congratulations.
No,
I'm glad we could hear you talk about your piece. Thank you so
no,
much.
that's
and
perfect. And I
congratulations.
do appreciate it. Thank you all so much. I truly do. I love this show. I love being a part of it, and I'm honored to be a part of it. Honestly, to get first place, I'm astonished and just completely thrilled. So again, thank you all so much. And because it is an incredible show, and y'all do a wonderful job with it.
We love it. We love it.
Well, thank y'all so much.
You're welcome. Our pleasure. I really appreciate you all attending today. Thank you so much. This has been a
Thank you.
thrill for me. It always has been doing this show. It's absolutely wonderful. Take
Thank you,
care.
Angela.